Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a different presentation style or title, at least. We're going to call this Inside the Draft. EA has joined me once again, and we're going to um, attempt to present an in-depth look at three of the edge defenders in this NFL draft. We picked three guys with maybe their own style, and we're not going to show film here, but we'll give you as much in-depth coverage as we can. And I think you were the one who picked these three guys, right?
I think it was me. Yep.
CASHIUS HOWELL, TJ Parker from Clemson, and GABE JACAS. We're going to make sure we get that name right.
Yep. I was butchering his name earlier.
We intentionally chose to omit Ruben Bain and David Bailey because I think we're both in agreement. Number one, absolute studs. I don't need to evaluate those guys. I think they're day one stars for their team, especially in pass rush situations. In the case of David Bailey, maybe there's concerns there against the run that you don't have with Ruben Bain. So we kind of moved to that next tier or next group of guys, I guess is one way to describe it.
Right. And I think you and I are the same in that we kind of like there's enough people covering the first round guys. Not that these three aren't early guys, but you and I both sort of like finding those guys that are second through seventh round, and featuring them and seeing what we can find there. So hopefully we'll do some of that through this series.
100%. I mean, it makes my process inefficient because I'll fire up film to watch, TJ Parker. And then I'll find myself looking at, some random defensive tackle who, and I'm like, wow, this guy's a good player. And then end up watching more film of that team and that guy, because of what I saw. I think it's what makes the draft process a whole lot of fun.
It is. I think, I was watching Cassius Howell and I think it was that team. I'm watching a lot of it now, but 50. God, I was like, who's 50? 50 was jumping. Same thing you're talking about. You'll find some guy that just does something. You're like, oh gosh, is this guy coming out in the draft? And end up chasing that a little bit.
As an old person too, for me, it messes me up with all these new numbers. Like number 11, I think it's number 11, a defensive tackle for A&M.
Right.
He's playing pretty well. It's like, who is that guy? Number one. Number two, is he actually a defensive tackle? Of course he was. You can tell by body size and composition. But the whole number thing still messes me up because I don't, get a chance to watch a ton of college football during the season.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, for some reason this season, the number seems to be 3. You'll see a lot of 3 off the edge,
So for those of you guys that are watching, this is something I'm going to attempt here as far as a YouTube premiere on Saturday morning. Not premiering a video Saturday morning, but the way that I'm going to do this with college film. I've got a Google link that I'm going to post in the description and the comment section. And so when EA and I talk about each player, we're not going to show the film, for a lot of reasons. But you're welcome to click on that link. It should have viewer permission. So anyone should be able to click the link and then look at clips of CASHIUS HOWELL, TJ Parker, GABE JACAS. I think there's also ones for Akeem Mesidor, Zion Young, and maybe one other player in there. We're not going to refer to those guys in this video, but I think we're going to do a follow-up video, part 2, sometime this week, right? On those two guys. And who was the other one? R. Mason Thomas?
Yeah, that's our ambition. I think we can pull it off.
Do you like focusing on one group to the exclusion of others? Because I do. I don't know if you do.
I bounce around a little bit. I kind of look for who initially jumps out to me, and that could be somebody late, and then I'll watch them. I do start that way, Coach. I'll say, well, I'm just going to watch nose tackles today, and then I'll end up watching a cornerback or something like that. So I bounce around a little.
This has helped me though. When I forget what day you and I communicated, maybe Wednesday. They've all kind of run together at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think about the position group, because then it helped me to even look at guys like Keldrick Falk, Zion Young, different play style, see the different play styles and what guys were asked to do by their college defensive staffs and defensive coordinators. try to project what they could do, for, the Ravens, the Lions, the Seahawks, whoever, I don't know that I'm really good though at projecting where guys will get taken. I feel like I've got a pretty good sense with these three though.
You mean in terms of round or in terms of fit or both? Team fit.
I like to do ranges, and so
Mhm.
like for me, I think that Howell's range is probably anywhere from 12 to 22, but I don't see him being there in the 25, 26 unless the combine stuff isn't as explosive as we expect. We all know what the arm length measurements are going to be, for him, but the short area quickness, the explosion, the agility, if all of that is to the ridiculous, scores that we expect, I just don't see him getting past. In a trade back scenario for the Ravens, I don't see him being there at 25, 26,
Mm,
27. I could be
okay.
wrong.
Yeah.
Parker, I think, is a guy who could be, and Yakas certainly will. I think Yakas is one from a Ravens or the Ravens are 17 and 45, and the Ravens are 14 and 45. The Ravens are 17 and Lions are 17 and 50, if memory serves. I don't know that TJ Parker is there for either one of those teams at 45 or 50.
Probably
He's
not.
long gone before then.
Yeah, probably not. And Akas is the kind of guy that, he's projected, let's say round 3, but I can see a team like Seattle snagging him in the second round, and then a year from now, people are like, man, that's a serious football player.
Absolutely.
He strikes me like that kind of guy.
And I think that's the constant balance for some of these teams is, hey, they'll be Akas is, there at 45 or 50 for Baltimore or Detroit, probably. But I don't think he's there the next time they pick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the case of Detroit, they don't have a third round pick because Brad Holmes trades those away often.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it works for them. Do you ever, we'll get to the evaluation of these guys in a moment. Do you ever feel like there's too much of a focus on pass rush skills for these edge defenders?
I do. It is the paramount thing, but in the three guys we've watched, and as we go forward, I'm watching it all. I want to see how they look matching up. How they're used matching up in drops or zone match things scenario. Definitely, it's difficult sometimes for me to get a grasp on how well they play the run. That's to me that, especially as a Ravens guy, that is equally important. How well they hold up, and of course the Ravens are looking for, to your point, somebody who can get the quarterback. So
yeah,
maybe that's changing a little bit philosophically as we go. But
it doesn't really bother me at all when I see so much focus on the pass rush because that's the winning down, third down, and you look at some of those matchups between the Seahawks and the Rams, the regular season one that Seattle won, the classic overtime win, and then the NFC Championship game. It's because they were really exceptional defensively on third downs.
mm-hmm.
You've got to stop the run or slow it down enough such that make teams one dimensional. Certainly makes the game a whole lot easier. And so, we have to focus on it. And I think that'll be the first thing that we mention, but we don't want to exclude, their work against the run. I know I've kind of separated guys into two categories for this draft. There's one guy who I think, maybe two, who kind of bridge the gap between the two. So I'll do traditional group first. Keldrick Falk, Zion Young. TJ Parker probably has a foot in that category as well. Your bigger, stronger, longer guys. TJ Parker's arm length is like 33 and 2/3 or something. It's a little bit more than 33 and a half. So prototypical, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got all these shorter armed guys, but tremendous athleticism and explosion. Reuben Bain, David Bailey, Cassius Howell. Would you feel comfortable putting R. Mason Thomas in that same category as far as type of edge rusher or no?
Yes. To me, he's the same type. and it's a type that I would consider less in years past, but now I'm starting to really consider. Yeah, I would.
How about Mesidor? I know we'll talk about him next time. I feel like he's kind of got a foot in both of those worlds. I think he's going to measure like between 6'2" and 6'3", but he's a little heavier than some.
Yes.
He's certainly a little heavier than Howe and R. Mason Thomas and David Bailey. I think he's going to be 275, 278, somewhere around there.
Yeah, that's a big boy. He measured. He actually looks different weights from game to game to me almost.
Jersey, maybe.
I seen him listed at 280, and then I said, hey, he looks about 265. Sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't think. I agree. Yeah. That happened with Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones was listed at 280 when he was in Seattle. Goes to Tennessee, and I remember when we traded for him, looking at the film and thinking to myself, he doesn't look 280 to me. 265, 270. All right, you want to start with Howe?
Yeah, let's go.
So got some generic strengths and weaknesses listed. How concerned are you with the arm length or lack thereof when you've got a player who's this athletic and this explosive?
It shows up. I mean, it does show up, and he's going to get overpowered versus the run. That's the main concern with him. It does show up too, I think, where it would really benefit him. It benefits every edge rusher, of course, if somebody is collapsing the pocket from the interior, because I've seen guys get hands on him and press him past the pocket as guys step up. So I think you want to pair him especially with somebody who could move the pocket from the interior, that to just really put forth his best foot as a pass rusher. I do think the arm length does show up.
And that's just smart game planning from a coaching standpoint. And once again, I should call everybody's attention to I got a Google link in the description and in the chat if you want to follow along. I think there's 2 Cassius Howell videos in there, one against Notre Dame and one that's just like sacks. So I do have that running off screen. I agree with you. I've seen some of that. I feel like against the run, I've actually seen a number of 2nd and 8, 3rd and 9 situations where Notre Dame did it twice, where they ran up under him by design on 3rd and long. One of them was like a 3rd and 18. I mean, they did get like 13, 14 yards, but part of it is it's 3rd down. It's a passing situation. And B, they know where he's going to be because Cassius Howell almost exclusively lined up into the boundary. I will say this. I was surprised and impressed with his drops in coverage at times.
Yes. I wrote that down as well. And I might stack the 3 of them as we go. Like this guy does this a little better, to my mind, or this guy's the second best or something to that effect. But I had him man match versus Notre Dame, and I was impressed with him there. He covered man on a tight end versus South Carolina, where they lined him up almost as an apex, and he was man on the tight end. Then I saw him run the seam in this switch coverage, covering a number 2, like way downfield. I thought he was impressive as a in zone match situations, and I saw that more out of him than I did the other 2. He to me was, and that's a good thing. When you've got a guy that can rush the quarterback and can be used in that way as well. I think that stood out a lot to me.
And I thought that as far as like his awareness while he was in coverage, it seemed to me like he was on the right leverage side for a lot of those routes. Often, I think of 3 of them where he's, obviously facing the offensive tackle, and then on the snap, he's kind of turning and working with his back to the quarterback some. One of them was, I would say, 2-man, so it was man underneath and then 2 high safeties, and he stayed on the inside hip to the boundary. And the boundary is obviously very small or thin, short, whatever you want to call it. in college compared to the NFL. The NFL hashes are really tight together, leaving more space to the boundary. I thought he showed good awareness in those situations. And when you combine that with a guy who's as quick off the ball, because he's got a great first step, and then I also feel like he kind of plays to his own beat a little bit, to use a musical comparison, because he almost kind of delays the engagement with the offensive tackle because of how much he's getting upfield and gains width. It seems to me that he changes the timing of the tackle's potential punch versus other guys who are a little bit wider by alignment and playing at a more typical angle. Any of that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The other thing about him is that strikes you, and you have to think, or I have to think, or consider him as a Raven, and what is that going to look like? More so than any other team, but he's a closer. He is a closer. He does it twice that I saw, probably more, where the game's on the line. I think it's South Carolina. It's 31-30, fourth quarter. I don't know, I think 3 or 4 minutes left to go. Third down, 3rd and 12. And he goes and gets the quarterback. And he did it versus Notre Dame as well. Closes out the game that way.
What a wild game. 41-40, just nuts.
Yep. And it's interesting, the South Carolina game, that's 3rd down. He makes a play and sacks the quarterback. So he has the ability to kind of turn it on when it matters. And that to me is a classic trait of a classic pass rusher stud. It's like, when it matters, I'm going to get there. But they dropped him on the next play, fourth and 15 or whatever it was, and he makes a play in pass coverage.
He's so twitchy. He's so sudden and abrupt. His Euro step is it's a little different than other guys' Euro step. It almost looks more like I don't want to say drawn out, because it's not, but there's more side to side with his Euro step than other guys who are kind of gaining ground. And I feel like those guys that are more like less of a severe angle, perhaps I'm not saying this well, you can kind of tell the Euro steps coming. With him, it's so boom, boom, and it's so lateral or horizontal as far as the rush angle, that it really, I feel like, makes tackles almost be like a basketball defender. Okay, I'm going to get crossed up here. I just don't know whether I'm getting crossed up to the left or the right. And his Euro step, to me, you got the inside spin. I love the ghost move that he does, where he kind of, starts to put his arm up and then he just disappears.
Mm-hmm.
That might be my favorite move of his, as well as the Euro. He did a Euro step against someone. Maybe it was Utah State, and I'm not sure who it was against, someone with a white jersey. And I've watched that play probably 50 times. I was like, oh my God, this is extreme athleticism, even at the NFL level.
Yeah. I saw a play, which the start and the explosion was just really impressive. And it was a nothing play. He just got into the backfield, followed a handoff, and he stopped on a dime and then hit the quarterback from what seemed like 3 yards away. Just bam. He really didn't touch the ground. He stopped and he was right on the quarterback, hitting the quarterback. And I was like, man, that's rare. That's unusual, kind of maybe TJ Wattish kind of athleticism. He's also, of these 3 guys, he's the guy more so than, let's say, TJ, who's going to chase you down backside.
Oh my God. Against the run too. I mean, he's on you.
Yeah.
If you're going to read him, I think that he's athletic enough. He's going to tackle pretty much every quarterback that, keeps the football. For me, I would run, if I was game planning against him, I'd say I want to run split zone read against him. So, run that H-back across the heels of the offensive line and try to kick him out, because if we don't kick him out and we give it, he's going to run it down from behind.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot to work with, although I don't think there's much room for him in terms of holding up and getting off blocks on the edge. But I don't know that that's going to preclude me from picking him because of how special he is getting after and how he can do other things for you as well. And, you know, to me, this is a guy, if you can get after the quarterback and you can close, he's a guy worth considering. And like I said before, I would tend to rule guys out that I didn't think were tremendous versus the run or setting the edge or getting off and shedding.
You mean normally, right?
Yeah, but given the Ravens situation, I don't see anything wrong with getting up on a team and cutting this guy loose, you know, and taking him early.
Do you like the Doomerville comparisons or no?
Huh. I don't know. I think of Doomerville as bigger. Was he, or I don't even remember. In my mind, I think of him as bigger.
Probably a little bit. I mean, just the super athleticism of these three guys, like you said. I mean, you know, if you had either one of these three guys that's going to play offense and get the football, I will want this guy as my fullback. Let's get him the ball downhill now. He's just incredible athlete. He's 22 years old. I've got some notes here. He did go to Bowling Green initially, which is pretty unique because how many players have gone to Bowling Green and then moved on other places? You know, the guy you just did a video about and that we talked about a lot, Jalen Husky from Maryland, from Frederick originally. He went to Bowling Green.
Right.
They've had a lot of talent. He's 22 years old, will turn 23. I do love the fact that he plays incredibly fast. Some people have talked about that's a negative for him from a pass rush standpoint because everything he does is, you know, up the field, up the field, up the field. He certainly, I thought he had two good speed to power moves that I saw, but it's not there. It's not there a ton. You didn't see it a ton. Don't get me wrong, but I've seen some good reps enough to know, like, okay, he's incredibly strong. I can't wait to see the bench press. Like, I think he's a powerful athlete. You know, the Ravens at 14, I'm not sure they're going there. The Lions at 17. I think both of those teams probably want someone a little bigger, longer, more traditional or prototypical out on the edge. But to me, this guy, let's do it this way. If you have to play against him and you're consistently in third down, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, I don't think you as a fan are going to enjoy that. I think this is a supreme athlete that I expect to have, you know, success in the NFL. Maybe, you know, 8, 10 sacks his first year. I have no idea. He's got the ability to be a 10, 12 sack a season guy from a physicality standpoint and explosiveness.
He's a legit terror. To your point, you know, about Doomerville, when it was third down, you knew that he was coming. You knew that was a problem when you watch Doomerville line up on third down or on pass rush situation. I feel the same about him. I think he's a legit problem. Like, you know, we hope certain guys can get home on third down. With him, it's a little beyond just hoping. Well, there's a good chance he's going to hurt somebody. You know, there's a good chance he's going to win here. They're going to watch out.
If you have a tackle that, because he played on the right and the left, he generally played to the boundary. So wherever the ball was, you know, he was to that boundary side. Plays on the right, plays on the left. I like him in a stand-up position more so than a three-point stance. I'm not saying he couldn't play of a three-point stance, but I like him standing up. And I feel like his get-off, you know, from the snap is consistently quicker than pretty much all of these guys. You know, David Bailey, Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain sometimes has a little bit slower get-off, but I feel like Cassius Howell's get-off, his threat off the edge is immediate. It's about as good as it gets, I think, for this group, this edge group.
Is there anything that puts you in the mind of a Nick Benito coming out? Similar traits? I think he's more explosive than him, but I can see a similar effect.
Yeah. I feel like for the Ravens, if a trade back scenario, if the Ravens could get to, you know, 22, 23, keep 45, and then also get back, I don't know, 52, 53 somehow, whatever the trade scenario is, then I think Cassius Howell becomes a real option for Baltimore. I don't think the Lions are trading back from 17 in my mind. So if they're going to take Howell, they're going to have to take him at 17. And I just don't know that they will. They seem to want more D-end type guys that, bigger TJ Parker, or even Gabe Jacas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems to me you get the two edge guys early, and then there's going to be several guys somewhere between whatever, 12, 15, and 35. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, two early guys and then a run.
You know how usually there's a run on receivers in that like 9 to 15 range? Sometimes it's a little later. I feel like, to your point, you kind of started to talk about it. After Bain and Bailey, certainly not going to be a run on edge defenders, until you start to see Parker, Zion Young, Cassius Howell, until those guys start to come off the board, Mesidor as well. Then I think you'll start to see teams move who want an edge, who want one of these guys, because if you sit around and wait until 45 for Baltimore and 50 for Detroit, most of these guys are not going to be there.
That's right. Yeah, I think into the middle of the second round, you're out of luck in terms of impact. Get the quarterback guy.
Yeah. You want to do TJ Parker next?
Yep, that sounds good.
Maybe.
Sorry about the page turning.
No, you're good. I can't get this one to show up for some reason. There we go. I will preface this with, I think that there's a great football player here with TJ Parker in some team, in some organization. You look at where he was recruiting. He chose Clemson over Alabama and a host of other schools. You got a great frame, 6'4", 265. I think the arm length, like I said earlier, 33 2/3. Maybe it's a little less than 33 and a half. Maybe it's 33 2/5, something like that. Tremendous hand usage. It's almost like a professional boxer's react. Like I always think of Floyd Mayweather, like those instant, abrupt, almost instinctive reactions. He's got them while he's running a move. Okay, my move got shut down. Boom, immediate counter. I just think that part of his game, the hand usage, is probably a relative strength, as well as the fact that he does have multiple moves in his repertoire already. I guess the one that is less, effective would be just the absolute speed rush, like a Cassius Howell, right? He's not the same type of guy. Doesn't have a bad get off of the line, I don't think, but it's certainly not like a Cassius Howell or a David Bailey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's got a consistently good get off. Out of the three, I don't think he gets off the line as well as the other two, the three that we're looking at, but that's not I don't think he's bad off the line. I think one of the things I like about him is that he can sort of trace the pocket very, very well. When he's engaged, you can see that he reads the quarterback stepping up.
Right.
He can exploit the tackle one way or the other and get off. He can shed when he's in that situation pretty well. I like that about his game, where he can get locked up a little bit, but he's locked up by intention, and then read the pocket, get off the tackle, and go after the quarterback. I did think he showed more so than the other two, especially the ability to set the edge. That idea that
Run defense.
Yeah, that I'm going to get outside, but I'm going to find a football. That's a big deal. I'm going to find a football and get off. I do think he's a little slow-footed in pursuit, especially by comparison to the other two. But generally, I don't think he's going to chase you down backside when he's being read.
Not at all. Not at all.
I thought all three of these guys had some serious, but even Parker, serious confusion when they're being read, and maybe that's it, some indecision. But Didn't see too much in the way of drops with him. I did see him play man on a tight end, some flat drops. I think that was versus Troy where they lined him up in man on a tight end.
Did you? I don't want to say I'm a 3-point stance guy because some guys just play better standing up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like TJ Parker could do either one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do really feel like he is a little bit better initial get off when he's in a 3-point stance.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I think in the right situation, in the right place as a rookie, this is a really good football player. And I am, but having said that, the production is somewhat inconsistent at times, especially in 2025. He had 3 sacks. They were 3, against South Carolina in the regular season finale. I think he only had 2 sacks the rest of the year.
Yeah, he finished with 5.
He had 4 sacks against Pittsburgh in one game in 2024. And that was a really, really overmatched right tackle. So, there's going to be people who say, I don't like the production, especially given that, the Pittsburgh game 24 was, total mismatch for as far as who he was lined up against, and he's not going to get those matchups in the NFL. Fine. He's young. He's 21.
Mm-hmm.
Never redshirted. I think a 5-star. Maybe he was a 4-star, but I think he was a 5-star. Does Alabama even recruit 4-stars? I think he chose Clemson over Alabama. I think he's very well trained. I think he's very intelligent and very gifted. And I could see a scenario where he goes to the wrong place and for whatever reason doesn't, display those skills as a rookie. I'm just talking about as a rookie. I think over time, this guy's got too much ability, too many physical gifts to not be a really, really good football player for a long time. I mean, I hate to use ceiling and floor stuff, but I think you've got a really, really high floor with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Do you know? And when you can, I do think he is a 5 to 8 sack guy. But do you consider him across from Mike Green? That he's definitely a power rusher compared to Howell. I would call him a power rusher in a general sense. Do you think that's a good matchup? Mike's a power rusher too. Mike's just a rusher, but how do you think the two of them pair?
I think Parker is left-handed, and I don't know this, but when I watch him, and I should call attention. I want to do this for every one that we do. Again, we've got a Google link down in the description in the chat bar for anyone who's watching. You can watch some of the plays, and you'll actually see what I'm talking about. I actually just saw it a couple of moments ago. When he collapses, and he's playing from a right-handed side for the defense perspective, he collapses with his left arm being the inside arm in such a violent manner. And it's across 2024 and 2025. So, he might not be left-handed, but I look at him and I think he's a left-hand. That's a consideration.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do see that. That sort of long arm, inside arm there. Did you notice that he's one of his best moves to me is that sort of push. I don't know what you want to call it, push pull or that bull and jerk kind of thing.
We call it jerk. Yeah. Jerk move.
Yeah. So when he puts together, you see him when he puts the get off together with that. He's that's when he's at his best to me. That's a great move that he's got. Active hands too. Do you see him versus?
Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning.
You can edit that out.
That's all right. Just want to say I love you.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
He's got active hands inside versus Pitt. And they lined him up a little bit at 4-eye and at 3-10 versus Pitt.
He's just got so much. To me, he's got so many skills, and there's so many things that he does well. I feel like you're taking less of a chance with a TJ Parker than you are maybe with a Cassius Howell. And some would say you are with the David Bailey. Bailey's athleticism and everything is just so ridiculous. Parker's not in the same category. I think he's a 4'6", 540 guy, somewhere in that range. I think he's I think he's a sub 4.7, so he's not a bad athlete. I just think that Parker is so good at so many things. You know, it does make the production or lack thereof at times, a little confusing.
Yeah, he can stall out. I mean, I think sometimes he relies too much on power. That'll manifest itself more in the league. He's not going to blow you off the edge, right? He's not going to threaten that high shoulder just as much. He is a power rusher to me. So, yeah, I think to your point, he's a very good football player. Whether he's an extreme edge guy, I don't know.
If he had come out last year, you're talking about a guy, 11 sacks, 19 and a half TFLs, and 6 forced fumbles in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
If he had those numbers again in 2025, regardless of what so many of us think watching the film, he's a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
He's maybe top 12, depending on how many quarterbacks are in the draft, in a draft or whatever. I just, if he was picked to my team, a team that I'm rooting for, I'd be happy. Ravens, Lions, Seahawks, I'd be happy with a TJ Parker. Do you think he's there? I know some people who think he'll be there early second round. I just do not see that. I don't see him being there past 17, 18. If he's in the 20s, I'll be surprised.
I could see him in the 20s. Everybody's calling for him like 45. That's probably not going to happen. I just don't think there's enough players as good as him
no way.
Across positions.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's back end one, but you see guys like go early, 15, 17 that are projected back end one too. So I can see that anywhere between 15 and 25, maybe.
I love some of the stuff I see with him, and I could be wrong. I'm perceiving what some of the coaches, scouts would see. Some of the situation where he ends up between two defenders. These kind of like almost surreal or alien like of ability to swat the inside guy, and then immediately like two-hand chop or swat the outside guy. I don't mean using as a double team technique. It's not what I'm referring to, but where there's this staggered nature of like a guard tackle and he's going through B gap. Some of those situations are so quick in the way he executes them and powerful. They work.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, when I watch it, I just feel like those are some of the skills that maybe guys like us and others don't focus on, but scouts see and go, wow, that's already at the level we need it to be at for what's going to happen during the game. I feel like he offers a lot, and I'm not a huge Clemson or TJ Parker guy necessarily, but the more film I watched, even of 2025, the more I was like, man, there's a ton of talent here.
I thought he was more, I think people poo-poo the 2025 stuff, but I thought he was more violent, taking on kickouts, for example, in 2025. I thought he was more physical, more prepared. I think he took a step as a run defender in 2025.
He's 21 years old. He'll turn, and he's 6'4", 263, I think. I just round up, for some of the stuff I put there. I think he turns 22 in September, if I recall.
Yeah. That's starting to become sort of an anomaly, the guys that are coming into the league at 21, 22.
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
He's
a guy that runs his legs through contact, right? When engaged, when he's playing power, he runs his legs consistently.
And executes the appropriate hand move, swat, whatever, chop to escape and get to the football. It's didn't redshirt once, 3 years at Clemson. Some guys at this point in time, maybe to say they need to stay in school, maybe that's the wrong word. But it behooves them to do so because they can make money now in college and then potentially make money for another year in the NFL. Fine. TJ Parker doesn't need to.
No, I agree. Is there another team that jumps to mind? I think he does seem more a Raven or a Seahawk or a Lion. Is there another team that you put in there that you think he would fit?
Patriots.
Right. Yep. Patriots have taken on sort of that old school Patriots vibe now with Vrabel there, and he's that sort of player. That's a good call.
And I don't know what this team is going to do. They kept their GM, and they went so heavy on defense in last year's draft. I actually liked the Buffalo Bills draft in 2025. I thought they got a really high-level selection of players, but they've been criticized at this point for, I guess, going overboard on defense, maybe. We do. I guess we all do that when we're talking about and we're being protective of quarterbacks. So maybe the Bills wouldn't, go DN there. They drafted Jackson last year, the kid from Arkansas. But I feel like he'd be a good fit for the Buffalo Bills. I hate to say it, I feel like he would be a good fit for the Cleveland Browns. They've got 6 and 24. My gut is that the Browns are going O-line and receiver in some combination there. Radically improve their offensive line and their skill position talent. They got the running back. They got the tight end they need. But I feel like he's a guy I wouldn't want to see. I wouldn't want to see him on the other side in our division for 4 or 5 years. I just wouldn't. I'm not a huge – I have not watched a ton of film of The Last Guy. I'll be honest with you. But what I did watch, I really liked. Have you been watching his film for a long time?
No, but I've binged him. I just found him a week or so ago, so I've kind of fallen for him a little bit in general. Yep. There's some things to really like, then there's some things that really need work and aren't there as well. But I think he's got again, just don't like using ceiling floor, but I think he's got a pretty high ceiling. Whether he gets there or not, I'm not sure.
I could see a scenario 3 years from now where he's had a couple of 10-sack seasons, made an All-Pro. I mean, I think there's a ton of talent there, and you know what? He's probably not 265. He's probably 272, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I've seen him listed. That's the 265 is the low. I've seen him listed 265 to 80, 280. Yeah. Great.
I don't think he's 280 either, though.
No. Yeah, I think 270-ish probably. Yeah.
You know what's crazy? He won. I think he won 2 state titles in wrestling in Florida.
Yeah.
And one of them was at 220 pounds as a junior. So you're talking, and I don't believe he's redshirted. Let me double check. No, he's played 4 years. So, he did the typical freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, which you never see now. So you're talking about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, he was a 220-pound junior who won a state wrestling championship in Florida. So he's got a great frame. He's added a lot of pounds in the last 5 years, 40, 50 pounds, but tremendous athleticism at the same time. I think he's got a lot of ability. Do you think he's more explosive than TJ Parker?
Yes. It's not extremely evident, but I think in my mind, yes. Really gets off in pass rushing situations, especially. I think he's got a violent right arm or outside arm club, and he will throw guys around. I mean, they're both power rushers, but he's to me, okay, nowhere near the amount of pass rush moves, so to speak, as TJ at this point. But he's got that powered thing down. He also traces the pocket well, the way that TJ does. He's just violent guy. Also runs his legs through. Seems very natural. Good lateral quicks. He has a knack for getting the football out. Pretty good statistical performance.
7 forced fumbles in the last 3 years. I got the stats on another, and great production the last 2 years. I've got 19 sacks and 26 TFLs. If you combine 24 and 25, so he's gone through a progression of production. And he was on the field on every snap. I don't know about you, but when I watch this film that you get, it's the continuous film. So you'll get a scoreboard shot, and then you'll get the all 22 or coach's film, and then the end zone. And then next play, scoreboard shot, all 22, end zone, and so on and so on. And so some guys you'll be like, oh, wow, it's a 2nd and 8 in the first quarter with 8 minutes left. And then the next play you see is a 3rd and 7 with like 10 minutes left in the next quarter. And it's like there's a lot of plays that they were off the field for, maybe situational pass rush stuff or whatever. I felt like he was on the field a ton, and I could be wrong. And maybe my memory is not serving here, but I felt like Gabe Jacas was a guy who gave tremendous effort, and he was on the field on every snap.
Yeah, that's a good point. His run defense is something we should discuss as something that needs development. But I saw him, and this is interesting to your pointing out his wrestling, down at the goal line or in short yardage situations. They will line him up inside, and he gets low, and he blows dudes up, and he makes plays down by the goal line. Very violent, physical player. He has really does not read the backfield well as a run defender, particularly on when he's being read. He'll chase pullers and just have no clue where the football is. That needs to be developed. Definitely violent and physical enough to get out and set the edge, but I don't see him at this point like really finding the football, getting rid of somebody, getting the football consistently.
Not like TJ Parker.
No, Parker's the best, definitely the best of the three doing that.
Elite strength, though. Elite strength.
Oh, yeah.
CASHIUS Howell's got elite, start, stop, explosiveness, get off, boom, boom with his feet, one side to the other. Gabe Jacas has elite strength. And he's got good size. I mean, they're talking about, 280. I feel like the Draymond Jones comparisons are good comparisons in that they both play like straight line guys, kind of straight line guys. Draymond played really well for Baltimore this year. I mean, when they acquired him, I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Gabe Jacas, goes to a 4-3 team, and plays 4-3 D end or a 3-4 team and plays OLB. It kind of doesn't matter. There's so much at the NFL level. There's so much 11 personnel. It really doesn't matter if you're a 4-3 or 3-4 team. Against 11 personnel, you're going to have a 4-2-5 look, and that's it. That's
right.
Pretty much it. Some crazy teams like the Detroit Lions, they'll keep 3 linebackers on the field, and then you got the others, the Seahawks, the Ravens a little bit, and the Bills with Taron Johnson, base nickel 4-2-5, no matter what. I feel like Jacas fits in a 4-3 or a 3-4. Do you have the same thought or not?
I do. Yep. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. In some sort of small way, he's probably my favorite of the three. I don't think he's the best player yet. He's somebody I'm rooting for, and that's a totally different thing. Just hoping for him, particularly if he comes to Baltimore.
Do you think? Go ahead. Sorry.
He does. To me, it's not just a power guy, and I do see him kind of fighting wrists, grabbing wrists, throwing hands. There was a couple inside spin things I saw on tape. Does have that push pull, that rip thing down. I don't know. To me, he's a similar rusher to TJ. I don't think he's quite got the counter thing happening, but similar.
I think. Do you think that possibly the reason why you like him, myself included, I would put myself in this category, is because of the value that could be there if you take him at 45 or you take him at 50 for Detroit. For me, if he's a guy who's there at the end of the second round for the Seahawks, and they expect Boye Mafe to leave. They just got a fantastic season out of Uchenna and Nwosu. He had 7 sacks, which some would say that's not that great, but you got to understand they're they're rotating edge defenders in all game. Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, DeMarcus Lawrence, Uchenna and Wosu. Lawrence played a little bit of – that's a great comparison there for Gabe Jacas. Is DeMarcus Lawrence a guy who moves around a little bit and because of his strength in goal line situations can kick down inside. But I could see them looking at a player like this late in the second round, if he's still there. For teams like the Ravens and Detroit, he'll be there at 45 and 50, maybe, but I don't think he's there the next time those teams pick in round 3.
Yeah. If you're looking, and also if you're looking for an instant effect, I'm not sure you get it with him, but to your point, that the value thing, just this guy and his value maybe a little bit later, but I'm not sure he's year one because he's not that special in the way that Howell is, getting off the ball, getting after the court. He's not going to be that. And he does need work in his run defense and might be exploited in that regard. But so I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if he's going to be making a name for himself in the first year.
It wouldn't surprise me if he did. I mean, I agree with – I think everything you just said I'll co-sign, but he's got the type of ability physically and motor that nothing would really surprise me in year one, depending on where he ends up. I like the way he plays football. I think that's kind of what you were talking about, that you like him and you root for him, because what you see and what you perceive is a guy who does things the right way, plays the game well, executes his responsibility. I don't think he really gave much dropping in coverage from an awareness standpoint, or nothing like Hal, where Hal could see routes and kind of move to that side. I didn't see that from Gabe Jacas at all.
Mm-hmm. You like him paired with Green?
I think I might like him, backing Green up, but
yeah.
At this point in time, T-Rob's a little bigger. Tavis Robinson's, he's like 6'5", 270, right?
Big boy, yeah.
And kind of long. We got the combine coming up soon, so we'll see some of those, measurables for these guys. I'm not sure that I would like him, on the Ravens roster right now, unless you can get him. If they feel like they can get him at 45, that's pretty good value, if you ask me. I do feel like the right place for Gabe Jacas for a range. And I don't know that I'm great at these. I feel like the best range for him to be taken is 58 to 70, somewhere in that range is where I feel like he goes. Do you think he gets taken sooner than that?
No, possibly. I think that's a decent range, though. I think he's like mid to back second round. The latest I would say is early third.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see him much past that. So you could move. I don't know what you'd have to give up if you wanted to get from the third into the second, let's say, to get him.
I feel like for Baltimore and Detroit at 14 and 17, these are going to be – it's a great opportunity for the Ravens at 14, in my opinion. There's going to be some really fantastic players there at 14. And as such, or because of that, I guess, I feel like there's going to be some great trade back options.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's in the cards. I do think there's something in this draft. I really feel that we missed the boat last year. We've talked about this a lot with D tackle or D line. I think there's a bunch of good playing nose tackles in this draft, but in terms of that Matabike 3-tech, I see guys getting run up the boards. Can't think of the fella's name, but he's getting third round buzz now, and to me, he's not Aeneas Peebles. Aeneas Peebles is, he's our best bet for me.
D tackle was way. There's some really good ones. I disagree with people completely that this draft doesn't have a lot of good football players,
right?
Especially at corner, safety, edge defender. I know that there's going to be people who say, well, the first 3 edge defenders off the board are all short arm guys who aren't going to succeed because historically they don't. Ruben Bain, David Bailey, Cassius Howell. I just think I think it's a better draft than people have given it credit for. Having said that, yes, I would agree. Defensive tackle last year, far deeper than this season. And the Ravens, man, that round 4, round 5 turnaround was so disappointing. And, not grabbing a defensive tackle there who's a Tonka Hemingway, a rookie Raiders. Raiders certainly didn't have a great defense. He had 4 sacks in 9 games played. There's a couple of other D tackles that were there in that 3rd, 4th round range that Baltimore, moved on from. So I agree with you. I think that I'm a little apprehensive for the Ravens once they get past round 2 to see what they do from a draft perspective, because I trust them less the longer the draft goes on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there seems to be a bit of I don't know. I watched the Ravens, rewatched the Ravens Wired from the draft. It just came up on my feed, and I watched it again the other night. Boy, and I'm not saying I'd be any different, but boy, does DeCosta look nervous. Like through that, very, very anxious. And remember, Ozzie was just like a rock. And for whatever that's worth, Ozzie never showed that sort of anxiety. And there's even a quote in there, if I'm not misremembering it, where DeCosta says something to the effect, well, this is our offensive line draft. He said, so we won't pick, tell Steve we won't pick offensive linemen for another 5 or 6 years. He says something like that in the clip. Oh, what? I do think there's a lot of guards there are several guards I like in the 2nd and 3rd.
Absolutely.
And there's even I can see some guys in the 4th round that are tackles. That I think that would behoove the Ravens to pick up a guy that can play tackle and play guard.
There's guys who get drafted 4th, 5th round as offensive linemen, and they have solid first contracts, and some of them get a second contract. But Rasheed Walker out of Penn State, he just finished his 4th year with the Packers, and he was a 4th round draft pick. Now, I don't think that the Packers.
He was 6th or 7th. I remember because he was a guy I was big on.
Yeah, he's late.
Yeah, he was 6th or 7th round. Yeah.
So I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he started for the Packers, and if you go look at different rating services, he was ranked extremely highly for his time as a starting tackle for the Packers. I have to be honest with you. When the Lions would play the Packers, or when the Ravens were going to play the Packers this year, I just kept thinking, we're not going to be able to beat Rasheed Walker. Like, we're not going to be able to, I don't want to say exploit him, but my point is, a guy who was not a highly selected offensive lineman, tackle to be specific, played extremely well for his first contract. Didn't get one with the Packers, but he will get money from someone in this league. Rasheed Walker from Penn State. I think you're right. I think it's 5th, 6th round, something like that. So to your point about the Ravens, there is offensive line talent available in each of these drafts, extending to the 3rd, 4th, in some cases even 5th round, and they've missed the boat in some of those ways, or they've missed the mark with who they've taken. I don't know that I'm going to get to offensive line though, as far as maybe you and I will a month from now, but it's not going to be soon, right? Because we plan on doing another one of these on edge defenders, right?
Yeah. Yep. I do like the idea of us maybe getting into some guards, but I haven't even watched the 1st round projected tackles. I haven't even watched them.
Right, because they're not going to be there at 14. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in some of the guys that are dedicated centers, but have the ability to play guard.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think there's 3 or 4 of those guys, whatever their ability level is, who knows? But I think there's 3 or 4 of those guys in this. Well, 3 in this draft and 1 next year. I think there's more talent here in this draft, and I think it should be looked at as something that any team can rebuild their roster with, especially Baltimore with 11 or 12 picks.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit doesn't have as many because they trade them away. Brad Holmes trades them away often.
Yeah.
But it's a different strategy, and that's one thing that's really been super interesting for me to watch the last 2 or 3 years is the Ravens' strategy in the draft is, hoard picks as many as we can. shotgun spread style. We want to get as many of our shots on the board as possible. And Detroit is more targeted. We're going to go and trade for the guys we want. And sometimes that, comes back to haunt you, the Detroit strategy, and that, you don't end up with a third-round pick. I don't think they have a third-round pick the next 2 years, but to their credit, they've also got guys that they traded for who they really, really like. I was, one who was disappointed in them trading away so much to get Isaac Tesla last year, but I think he had 5 or 6 touchdowns as a rookie. So you can't argue with the result that they got. And there's just different strategies. I think some Ravens fans would like to have a Brad Holmes as their GM, and I think some Lions fans would like to have an Eric DeCosta as their GM. I mean, from the way that they approach the draft.
Yeah, probably.
Grass isn't always greener, or but
yep.
Well, I enjoyed this one. I hope you did.
Yes, sir.
We're going to do Mesidor, Zion Young, and R. Mason Thomas next, right?
Yeah, I think that works.
And try to get that out mid to late week this week coming up. So if you guys enjoyed this one, first of all, please, comment and let us know. It went on an hour, but only about 3 players. So, perhaps that's too long. But part of that is, I think, for me, I enjoy talking with you and just listening to some of your perspectives, especially when they line up, but sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we do a good bit of talking pre-show, just chatting it up. I enjoy that.
Yeah. I've started, it's why I asked you about Sundays earlier. I've started recording something on Sundays with a couple of guys, Femi Ayambadejo and Jake Hallett. But it's more of Ravens centered. But if you ever had time on Sunday, we'd love to, have you on there for that too, because then I wouldn't have to talk as much. I could just moderate.
Okay. All right. That'd be cool.
Well, like I said, if you guys enjoyed this one, please let us know in the comment section. We're going to do another one on edge defenders at some point. That may be the final one, but EA and I both enjoyed the whole film process and finding players, 3rd, 4th, 5th round guys that we really like. I think we're both in agreement at this point. The guy we really like late is Jalen Husky, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You turned me on to him. I was somewhat shocked by the film. You're like, hey, have you checked Jalen Husky out? He's a really good player. And hadn't just shocked at his range, his instincts, and your brain starts clicking how would I like this guy next to Starks and next to Hamilton as part of that, man. And I would. Yeah, I like him a lot.
Saw him play in high school. A former player of mine, someone who I was helping at the time prepare for his next season, as his first season as defensive coordinator, 2019, I believe. Maybe I got my years wrong there, but it was pre-pandemic. We went and watched him play a couple of times because he was playing someone that we knew that they were going to face eventually the following season. And I remember he had 13 picks as a sophomore in high school. Jalen Husky. 10 in the regular season, 3 in the playoffs. And then, of course, his what would be his junior years, destroyed by the pandemic, COVID, 2020. And he transferred to Quince Orchard and won another state title there. Had I think a touchdown and a interception in the state championship game, 4A. I mean, just, superstar football player. So if anyone else has any suggestions for players to look at, people or you've seen play in high school and maybe in college things didn't work out as much, or maybe they're just not getting as much publicity, man, please let us know in the comment section, because I think I can speak for both of us that we really enjoy trying to shed some light on players that are maybe underrated in this process. Is that how you describe it? Yeah,
I think someone mentioned to me that someone in the comment section that they really enjoyed the draft, the physical or the event of the draft much more because of these names that we bring out, that so they can watch that person on draft day or day 2 or day 3 and say, oh, they went to such and such. So I like that as well. I like trying to imagine myself finding somebody,
maybe
finding a guy that nobody else has found. That's really a fun thing to do.
I'll put this out there, and then there's so much interaction in the comment section at all times whenever we do something. So it's amazing and a blessing. So thank you guys. But I'll put this out there. Maybe we could do one of these leading up to the draft on Maryland only players or people from the area, Northern Delaware, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, DC, right? Something on as many Maryland area players as possible. I would love to do that and try to, just shed some light on as many of those players as possible. So, well, thanks for your time again, man. Sorry I made you get up early this morning, but it just works out best to get this done early.
Yeah, it's a good reason to get up. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Like I said, I couldn't sleep because I was so excited with it. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this one, let us know in the comment section. Any suggestions or possible pathways you think we could go for some of these, then, feel free to let us know. And then finally, if you think other football fans, Ravens, Lions, Seahawks, or anyone would, be interested in this content, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.